Media helps you decode the news. We reveal the process behind the story because there's sometimes as much to be learned from the gathering as from the news itself. Please join us.
Saturday mornings at 7 on KSJE, Farmington. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them. Whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury, San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Ten minutes past 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday morning, August 26th. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Micklin, and thank you for tuning in to KSJE, 90.9 FM over the air in San Juan County, 103.3 FM on the radio in Durango, and of course streaming everywhere from our website, ksje.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program. We are streaming the video live to the KSJE Facebook page and YouTube channel. We're glad that you are with us, everybody. Coming up this morning, my guest from the Farmington Municipal School District, Dr. Eugene Schmidt, is standing by to join us. He is also going to be introducing us to 3 new head coaches at Farmington School for the school years. We'll be meeting them in the next few moments, so stay tuned right here on KSJE. More to come about that. Later on this hour, I'll be speaking with communications professor Dr. Mike Hadabaugh. He'll be joining us from the Encouragement Lab. And this week, we're going back to our roots. Dr. Hadabaugh is talking about none other than encouragement and why that is so important these days. So stay tuned for that. You'll see it and hear it at 8:50 a.m. this morning right here on KSJE. Next hour, it's our classical music program. Mick Hess is going to be joining us, roving with the arts, of course. And today, Mick is playing selections from the great Gershwin, Rhapsody in Blue, American in Paris, much, much more coming up on a special 90-minute version of Roving with the Arts today at 9:06 on KSJE. And that takes us to 10:30. And right on Four Corners, our local and regional author program. Tracy Hales-Vass is speaking with author Christine Hemp today. And Christine Hemp has written her book called Wild Ride Home, Love, Loss, and a Little White Horse, a family memoir. We'll be hearing about that book coming up today at 10:30 on KSJE and, of course, on our website, ksje.com. Don't forget, of course, in addition to Facebook and YouTube, we invite you to connect with us on Twitter at KSJE_news or at KSJE, or, of course, check us out on Instagram as well. Let's check the weather forecast right now, and this morning it is going to be a mostly sunny morning, but increasing clouds again today and for the next several days, and there's still a chance of a scattered shower or thunderstorm popping up in the afternoon and overnight. 93 for a high today in Farmington. It'll be 65 overnight. 94 for a high on Thursday and Friday. Bit cooler on Saturday with a high of 90 degrees. 87 for a high on Sunday and 88 degrees on Monday. But still a chance of that afternoon or evening shower or thunderstorm popping up, or maybe another shower overnight like we had last night. Outside our studios, of course, here at San Juan College, it's right now 71 degrees in Farmington. So let me turn to my guests who are joining me this morning, and we'll start with Dr. Eugene Schmidt, of course, Superintendent of Schools with the Farmington School District. Dr. Schmidt is joining us via Zoom. Good morning.
Scott, good morning, and good morning to all of our Beacon of the Four Corners fans.
It's good to have you with us. As I mentioned, we'll be talking with some new coaches for the district, but first I know you kind of want to welcome everybody back to Farmington Schools because, of course, school is now underway in every sense of the word, although it's a little bit different this year.
Yes, we do want to welcome all of our students, staff, and families back to school. This is day 6. We are rolling along in a virtual world, and we will look forward to a year long of great new learning by our kids.
Very good. Well, excellent. Well, Dr. Schmidt, again, thank you for joining us, and let's talk a little bit to these head coaches that have also joined us this morning, who are going to be working in the district, of course, and beginning with Dave Reiser, who is in charge of FHS boys tennis. And Coach Reiser, good morning. Thank you for joining us as well. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You bet. It's great to see you. So, new head coach of the boys tennis team, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Very good. And so talk to us a little bit about your background. We kind of have a slide to show here that talks a little bit, of course, about what you've been doing, but talk to me a bit about your background.
Well, as it pertains to coaching, I've been playing tennis for about as long as I've been around. I wish I was better at it considering how long I've spent playing it, but that is not actually the case. But I really started playing tennis when I was around 8. I played competitively in high school and started giving lessons and kind of helping with the team. We had a long-standing legendary coach, Bill Wallman, when I was in school. I went to school in Portales, and he retired halfway through my high school career, and we got a coach who had little to no experience with the sport. So I sort of started my coaching career, I guess, helping our team when we needed that, just because I had a little more experience than some of the other guys. Gave lessons to people here and there, took some twists and turns on deciding where I was going to be in school and careers and things like that. And then finally, when I decided that I wanted to be in education and teach, I very quickly decided to try to get involved with sports and got involved with various sports coaching, but then got to my favorite sport, tennis, and was able to start coaching tennis in Espanola. So spent a few years coaching tennis in Espanola as an assistant with Nancy Suazo, who's the head coach there and has been for quite some time, and had a lot of good success, and then had the opportunity to come here after Larry Larson decided to retire, an amazing coach for about 150 years, I believe he's been here. So big shoes to fill, but I'm very excited to be here and very excited that they thought I was good enough to come and fill those shoes, or at least attempt to.
Very good. Well, welcome to Farmington Schools, and again, your experience, I think, in Espanola and prior will serve you well here.
Thank you.
Very good. And again, with COVID, talk to me a little bit about some of the precautions, some of the things that you are putting into place for this season, which is a unique season, of course.
It is incredibly unique and not ideal, but I was talking with the other coaches very briefly earlier, but tennis is somewhat fortunate because it's among the safer sports to play right now during these conditions, because there's really no contact with the other person because you're on the other side of a court, and it's typically 1-on-1, 2-on-2 at the most. It's fairly easy to socially distance. So we've been able to be a little more normal than a lot of sports have been able to be, which is fortunate for us, but we're still taking all of the precautions, making sure that there's plenty of hand sanitizer at the courts, keeping socially distanced when we're doing drills or anything like that, keeping and maintaining the pods of 5 as mandated by the state, and wearing masks at all times, which is not the kids' favorites, but they would be the first to tell you that they would much rather play in a mask than not be able to play at all. So even though we've had different circumstances and restrictions on our playing, the kids are incredibly glad to be out there and excited to be out there playing a sport that they like and that they care about. And so although we do have these different times, it's still having the ability for the kids to be out there and play their sports is a huge thing.
Sure, of course. And so your season has not really been changed at all, postponed or anything, right? It's still going when it was supposed to go, right? We
went from a late February start to an early April start, so our season got pushed back a little bit. But,
I see.
Overall, it's not been affected nearly as much as some, so pretty grateful for that as well.
Very good. Well, Coach Dave Reiser, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it very much, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Very good. And let me turn to our next coach. Daniel Burns is joining us. He is the new boys soccer coach at Piedra Vista High School. And Coach Burns, good morning. Let me bring you into the conversation here as well and talk a bit about your background coming to us from your degree program at Utah Valley, right? Utah Valley University.
Yeah, that's correct, in physical education.
Very, very good. Well, welcome to the program, and again, talk to me about your plans for the boys soccer team at PV.
Well, thank you for being here. So I'm pretty excited. This is my first head coaching position at a high school. So I'm pretty excited, a little bit nervous. But in general, I'm kind of just looking to turn some heads this year. I know our program hasn't performed as good as I think it probably could have in the past, and hopefully going to be able to unleash some of the talent that we have, and like I said, turn some heads and make an impression on everybody this year.
Very good. And you did some assistant coaching on the girls' side of things, right?
Yeah, so last year I was assistant coaching for the girls soccer here at PV, and then 2 years before that I was actually assistant coaching with the FHS girls, which made last year's game against them a little bit bittersweet of a game.
Right.
I coached a lot of the girls that we were playing against.
I would think so. Very true. And talk to me a little bit about, again, with COVID this year, of course, soccer is one of those things that we need to be a little bit careful about, and I know you've put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah, so the for the amount of time that we were able to do our summer training, it was interesting. We had to be real creative with a lot of things. And basically the goal was to get as close to game-like play as we could while fitting within the regulations. So keeping those pods of 5, getting our field set up so that everyone had their own zone, and just trying to get as close to game as we could. We did a lot of conditioning, and that's what we'll probably come back to as soon as we're allowed to start doing our off-season training, and just kind of fit within the regulations as best we can.
Very good. And your season has been postponed for a few months, isn't that true?
Yeah, so we are starting in February now, which will be interesting. But
yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll be nice to have a season at least.
True. And I imagine your students and athletes are like Coach Reiser's athletes. They just want to get out on the court and play or be active. And is that what you're hearing, even though they're kind of in this postponing time?
Yeah, there's a lot of anticipation and kind of just chomping at the bit, trying to get out and play as soon as possible.
Right. I would think so. Well, Coach Daniel Burns, again, thank you for joining us this morning. Good luck with the PV boys soccer team this year, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And that leads us to Bryce Foster. Coach Foster is the new head coach of the Farmington High School girls soccer team. And Coach Foster, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
It's Coach Frost.
Frost. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, no, it's not.
I've been called worse.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But talk to me a little bit about your background, if you would.
So I've been actually coaching girls soccer for about 10 years now. I started coaching my oldest daughter and just kind of kept going with her and kept adding teams to it as my other kids started growing. So I've actually been coaching for about 10 years, but in those 10 years, I had anywhere between 3 and 4 teams that I coached per season. And then just recently, we started going down to Albuquerque to play competitively. So I've been coaching competitive soccer for about 2 years now. So although high school is new and a little bit more fast-paced, I'm excited for the challenge.
Very good. And, of course, you are under the same kind of season postponements as the boys' soccer teams as well, right? All soccer has been kind of postponed and pushed into February, correct?
Yep. We've been pushed back to February 15th, I think, is the new start date for the season. So instead of starting off warm and ending cold, we're going to start cold and hopefully end warm.
Right.
See how the season ends up.
Very true. But imagine, again, like everybody else, your students just want to get on the field and maybe get back to some sort of practicing, which you'll be able to do, hopefully, as conditions allow, right?
Yes, absolutely. We the 3 weeks that we had to do our summer workouts, we had quite a good turnout, quite a lot of participation, and from those participants, we found out that they were struggling a little bit with staying at home and not being able to do anything. So soccer was kind of a reprieve. That workout was a reprieve for them. It kind of gave them that little bit of stress relief and got them out of their minds and into their physical being. So it was kind of fun. It was fun to see them start sluggish and get into more of a happy, more excited to be there type of personality and type of just type of practice. So it was fun.
Sure. And so during this time when your students are kind of waiting and getting ready to get back on the field in February, are there some exercises or some training they can be doing unofficially to keep them in shape for when the season does begin early next year?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually we have a team snap for all of the girls that were in our summer workouts, and I post workouts for them to do on their own daily, so they're able to get in there. So if they're not doing it, they need to be starting to do it, because come time to start practicing for real, it'll be very helpful for them.
Very true. Well, Coach Bryce Frost, thank you for joining us this morning. Good luck with the season when you do get back on the field, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
You bet. Thank you very much. That are the new, some of the new head coaches, by the way, for the Farmington School District. Bryce Frost, the new Lady Scorps soccer coach at Farmington High School. Daniel Burns, the new boys soccer coach at PV. And Dave Reiser, the FHS boys tennis coach, new coaches there at Farmington Schools. So thank you all for joining us, as I mentioned. Dr. Schmidt, let me bring you back to the conversation. Thank you for setting up the interviews with those three new head coaches. I appreciate it very much. You're probably excited to get those folks out on the field with your students.
It is always exciting when you have that next generation of great coaches, and so I've listened to their story, and I'm thinking, Dave, your tennis sounds like my golf. That I'm on this lifelong ambition to become a better golfer, but those things eventually do happen. But Scott, for all of these coaches, I wish you a great season, and I think that when you write your book about coaching during COVID, it will be a bestseller.
This will be a unique chapter in that book, I imagine, for your coaches. That's for sure. And maybe for you, Superintendent Schmidt, as you write your memoirs as well. We'll look forward to that chapter indeed.
Yeah, I was telling these young men that when I was coaching some years ago, the middle of the season, we had a volcano explosion. And so we had to sit out 17 days because that's how long it took to clean the fields from all of the volcano ash and things, so we could continue our play. So
how about that?
So we also wore masks.
Right. Yeah. Just a little news story we may have heard of called Mount St. Helens. So yeah. I certainly understand that and remember that time, but I certainly wasn't living nearby like you were, and that's what you're talking about, your proximity to the volcano.
Yeah, we were downwinders from the mountain, so it was
right. Very interesting. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the Farmington schools these days, Dr. Schmidt. And I know construction, of course, continues over at Country Club Elementary School. Can you give us an update on that project?
Yes, for those who are not visual and don't see the pictures of Country Club under construction, we have really been fast forwarding some nice work to give a new envelope to the building, windows and doors outside, always thinking about campus security. But more importantly, we also built an extension from the main building to the cafeteria. For many years, the cafeteria was in a separate building. And so we, over the summer, the construction crews have tagged the two buildings together, and in the process, put bathrooms, which was always something needed in that end of the building. And what the visual people are seeing of this show this morning is the partnership with the city of Farmington, great partners, Scott. And there was a parcel of property behind Country Club that was basically weed-fested parcel of ground that we had not developed. The city saw the opportunity of turning that into a play field for the school, but a subtle, soft kind of basin retention pond for the community. So the city is busily putting together a grassed field behind Country Club that will be a water collection area during flash floods. And I, like you, Scott, I was not here back in apparently the real water flood days, but this is going to be a great asset to the school and to the town as a chance to keep water from rolling through downtown in a hurry.
Very good. And I know that is somewhat of an issue in that neighborhood, Dr. Schmidt, and the city has been spending a lot of time and effort on kind of water control measures with some of these retention ponds and things like that. There's a major one in front of Piedra Vista High School, if I'm not mistaken, yes. That is helpful for those flash flood times. And you were not here, but I remember a couple of storms in 2013, I believe it was, where we saw some pretty severe damage and lots of water in a very short period of time. And so that's what you're talking about. These projects are able to maybe help control that a little bit better. And then when they're not being used for that, it sounds like this little depression will serve double duty with a grassed playground area for one of your schools.
It just speaks well of the vision of our city leaders. You know, Tommy Roberts off to Mayor Duckett now, and certainly the work of City Manager Rob Mays. But these people care about their community, and I just appreciate how they look for ways to make the school better, even as they're trying to protect the citizenry of their town. So good for Tommy Roberts, Nate Duckett, and certainly Rob Mays, and the care that they have for our community.
Very true, very true. Well, Dr. Schmidt, let's talk about, you mentioned this is day number 6, I believe, of the fall semester as things get back up and running. And so how have things been going? I know there maybe were a few glitches early on, but your tech folks are working through those?
Yes, there's really a lot to be proud of and excited for. I'm always impressed that we can issue upwards of 10,000 laptops to kids across the district, try to help families figure out connectivity, but there's always a glitch or two, and we live in a Zoom world now, Scott, and
yes, we
that's
do.
New to a lot of people, and there's inevitably a glitch or two. Sometimes it sounds, sometimes it's the kind of the choppiness because of maybe the connectivity speed. Sometimes I wonder, because Zoom is being used by schools all across America, that 50 million kids Zooming at the same time might crash the system from time to time. But really, really overall proud of the teachers in their ability to connect with families through Zoom. We have a school messenger thing called Schoology. So the technology side is getting better every day, and that will be our promise to the community that be patient as we learn this new way of teaching online, because it does get better.
Very good. And then, of course, as we move forward to next week, Dr. Schmidt, again, some of your special needs students and special education students are going to be front and center a little bit.
Yeah, so I thank you for sharing that we are looking for ways to begin to bring kids back to school. And so I'm for our listening audience, I'm going to call this a Jumpstart program. We've identified about 80 students who are really high needs kids, people who are visually impaired. We have deaf education students. We have some life skill students. So we're looking at how might we bring the most needy kids back before Labor Day. And so today is the first day of our Jumpstart School. So people might see some buses rolling around town, picking up kids in 1s or 2s. As you heard our coaches talk about, we can't bring back kids in a classroom greater than a 1 to 5. So you toss in a teacher for kids. In some cases, these classrooms will be 1 to 1. But I am excited about looking at our most needy. And then after Labor Day, we're in conversation with the public education department to begin bringing back our K-5 kids. Early in the summer, we asked families to choose at home or at school. and about 4,000 of our students expressed an interest in returning to at school at some point during the year. And so after Labor Day, September 8th is the first day that we'll begin to bring back pre-K, those pre-kindergartners through grade 5, in numbers that the state will allow for social distance. New Mexico's getting better, San Juan County's getting better. And so I'm hoping to bring back at least 50% occupancy of classrooms. And so we'll be waiting for the governor and the Secretary of Education to say, proceed with your plan.
Got you. And of course, I know a lot of folks have been noticing the decision by Albuquerque Public Schools to stay remote learning through the end of the calendar year. That was quite a big decision, but of course that's a very different district than the districts here in San Juan County, and I completely understand that. But is that something that you've considered, or would you like to get kids back face-to-face when it's safe to do that?
I will share that the Albuquerque, sounds like a good decision for them. I think that my Farmington community would like to come back to school. And so our conversations with the public education department, and we've been in some, I'll call it one step off from the New Mexico Department of Health, Dr. Scrace and others, trying to plead our case that the COVID rate of positivity in San Juan County is on a decline. That's a good thing.
Right.
We know that the public education department would like to bring, we would like to bring back our pre-K through 5, but I've written several letters saying, why don't you just let me bring them all back? And we have not gotten that permission, but we will continue to plead the case for those students who want to be in school, the opportunity to come back as quickly as the State Department of Health and the governor's office allow us to do that.
Sure, of course. And I know a lot of parents are hoping for that as well, and their kids as well as, and the students as well as that too, Dr. Schmidt. So I appreciate that answer. Let me ask you a little bit about some updates from your board meeting in August, and what we can talk about from that meeting.
Yes, and there's really a lot going on last night, and it's interesting. Even as we have virtual school for our kids, we have virtual school board meetings for the Farmington Board of Education, and it's really become a nice practice thing. So last night was the last meeting for the month of August. We had 2 this month, but we have been reviewing what we would call Board Policy Section 3, and it's actually 90 pages of information about how we run the curriculum and instruction portion of the school. And so things that people would be interested in, one of the conversations last night was, how do you determine valedictorian and salutatorian in this new age of COVID? People will remember last spring, I brought a recommendation to the board that we don't issue grades, we issue pass or no credit. And so now kids in high school will have 7 semesters of grades and 1 semester without. So we have to look at the board policy to formalize how the valedictorian and salutatorian are chosen for these next several years. We had other interesting parts of that. The federal government changed the Title IX law. When we think of Title IX, it's interesting, we had our coaches earlier.
Right.
We think mostly about equity in sports. But now the federal government has passed new legislation that includes more focus on different subgroups, not just boys and girls sports programs, but educational subgroups in fairness in school. So that was a conversation last night. And then the one that probably would be the most interesting to our community is the tax rate. That every year the school has a number of different tax obligations that our community has voted to pay. And so
these would be some of the, pardon me, Dr. Schmidt, some of the bond issues that voters have passed to support maybe some big ticket projects at schools?
Yes, and that's exactly right. We talked about that little construction thing at Country Club.
Right.
Some of that money is paid for what we call our general obligation, our GO bonds. And for this next year, what we try to do in Farmington is have consistency. So we pay the same tax rate every year. I don't know that in 20 or 30 years Farmington has raised the tax rate, but we do try to set a tax rate that we think our community can afford. And in that affordability, it allows us to build great schools. And so it was interesting that our coaches were from Piedra Vista and Farmington High. Our community paid for those schools in general obligation bonds. And I'm always proud of our community, Scott, because I've been involved in 2 elections in my 5 years as superintendent, and it was close to 80% yes. And so our community loves our schools. They're willing to pay taxes. But the GO bond, and they will pay these taxes in 2021. It's not an increase. It's the same rate that they pay this year, but the general obligation will be $5.32. The EdTech notes and the HB 33 that our viewers can see on the screen, we have two tax rates that support our technology that we use, the purchase of laptops, the licensing fees and things. One was called EdTech notes, and the district is slowly phasing that out. We have kind of a 5-year crossover, if you can think about a vertical incline or decline regression line. But the EdTech notes are getting lower every year, and the HB 33 gets a little bit higher, but always stays around about $2.25. And so the end of the day, what people are saying, well, Gene, get to it. The end of the day, it's going to be the same $7.44 or $7.45 you paid last year.
And that is, again, how the district pays for these things, and that's more of a property tax
Yes.
issue than the sales tax or other things that we're familiar with. But that is what goes to support schools, and in Farmington, that rate can stay fairly stable, or has been able to stay pretty stable. And this is what you're talking about, and what your finance folks try to ensure down the road as we voters approve these obligations, and then we have to pay for them over the course of several years. And so as you finance and refinance, this is all at a higher pay grade than mine, Dr. Schmidt, but this is how it all works as far as I understand them, right?
Yes, and I would say that the school district, we are always conscious of how to help our taxpayers at the local level. And people who are in tune with the taxes at school know that about 3 months ago, we refinanced some of our bonds that go back before I was the superintendent, but that has saved the taxpayers over $200,000, taking advantage of lower interest on bonds by refinancing. So we're always looking for ways to help our taxpayers, but more importantly, we do appreciate the investment in the future that our taxpayers are making, because just, since I've been here, we opened up Northeast Hermosa. We've rebuilt Farmington High School. We did a whole major project at McKinley. Now we're looking at Country Club. So the district really has focused on keeping facilities, and I'll say that the 3 of those schools won National Architecture Awards.
That's right. I remember that.
And so we build quality schools, we provide quality education, and now we're going to provide quality online learning until we can bring our kids back.
Well, there you go. Well, Dr. Schmidt, I certainly appreciate your time as always this month with me, and again, inviting the coaches to come on as well. It was great to hear from them. Thank you very much for doing that, and we appreciate you, and we'll see you again next month.
Thanks, Scott. See you next month.
All right. Thank you so much. That is Dr. Eugene Schmidt, Superintendent of Schools with the Farmington School District, my guest here on KSJE. And back with more in just a moment, everyone. The time right now is coming up on 8:43.
Rethinking indoor air to stop the